Hello, and welcome to Chad and Wess Ruin a Movie. If you'd like to contact us, you can get us at chadandwess@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, you can also follow us on SoundCloud or subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review. If you'd like more information, go to chadandwess.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chad and Wess Ruin a Movie.
Oh, what do we do?
We
have professionalism. That's what we do.
Stop and think about what we're going to say before we say it. Ruin a Movie. This is Wes.
Man, this is Chad.
You can just edit that together in post.
Nope. Just leaving all your blunders in there. Edit out my blunders. Leave yours in.
If we edit out your blunders, it'll just be me talking to myself.
Truth. Well...
Hey, look!
What are we here to talk about today?
We're here to talk about Civil War.
Yeah! We just left the theater.
Yep. I'm all sweaty.
I get to sit behind a local legend, a man about town.
Oh, please. Please.
He's getting asked to go on shows on local internet shows. I don't even know what you call that, but you're even wearing the shirt from it.
Yeah, I'm wearing the shirt. Got some free swag.
Notice who didn't.
Yeah.
This guy.
Because we weren't there. Quick plug. The local CW channel here has a Flash talk show called Flash Chat. They record on Wednesdays, immediately following every new episode of The Flash. And I was invited to come on there. And so I went on, and two other guys for a podcast. We'll put a link to theirs down in the description. Cool guys. Loved hanging out and meeting some new people, meeting some local podcast guys that have some of the same passions we do.
Look at how famous Wes is. This is him on the show.
You can click on that or down there or something like that and go.
I don't think I can put a link on that, but I'm at least pointing at
you can put the link
your
down
mug.
There.
I'm going to find a really embarrassing still.
That's fine. You already have one.
I'm going to find a better one.
Oh, God. But yeah, you can go watch it. WCCB is the YouTube channel. And like I said, we'll put a link to it down below. If you like The Flash, go check it out. It's a cool show. They do good work, nice production value. It was fun.
Better than ours somehow?
Yep.
Never. I bet they have more than 2 people working on the entire project.
I think there were 3. I don't know.
So, well, cool. That was exciting, and I saw the still you sent me had, Wes from Chad and Wes make a podcast underneath. I was like, oh yeah, sweet.
It did. Some
we're gonna get tens of listeners now.
Tens. Yeah, but it's good. It's a little bit of local, not production, I guess, publicity for us.
Hey, if you found us because you saw Wes on Flash Chat, send us a message, a comment, or something.
Yeah, say something.
I would love to know if people are actually if that drew people towards us. And then you saw me on this episode, and you're like, this is the last one I'm watching.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks to Just Jess, which is the host of the Flash Chat. She's the one who reached out and invited me to come on. And if this guy ever gets caught up with the Flash and feels like talking about it, maybe he can come with me next time.
That would be awesome. I am all caught up with everything that's on Netflix. So
you're only a season behind.
Once the next season of all those shows come out on Netflix, I'll binge watch all of them, and then I'll be caught up and I can watch them live. So maybe next season.
I think normally they release the DVD or the Blu-ray, which normally coincides with Netflix, right before the season premiere happens for the next season. So
that's fine. Then I'll only be a week behind by the time I watch them all, because I have time.
Gotta watch them all.
Anyway, so let's get to the point, though, because we are going to try a new thing and actually keep ourselves to a bit of a limitation on how long we let our episodes go. Yep. We're going to see how that treats us. So let's get right to it. We just saw Captain America Civil War, and my first question for you is, we like to start just overall impressions.
Fantastic. Great. I can think of probably lots of other adjectives to say about it.
All positive adjectives.
All positive. Not without some caveats. I do have a couple of issues, but for the most...
I do.
I know you do. And I'll be interested to see if we have some of the same ones. But honestly, overall, very, very, very positive. I would probably need to see it again to really help it find its spot in Marvel movie ranking.
When you just watched a bunch of them.
Right. I actually, this week I watched Captain America First Avenger.
Captain America.
Captain America.
I haven't seen that one.
He's got a stutter. It's a parody.
Captain America. Stop it. Stop it, Risco. Stop it, Hydra.
Played by Porky Pig.
Sorry for anybody that's listening that has a stutter. I don't mean to make fun of you.
Hey, you
He does.
Yeah, I don't care. Oh no, we're down to 9 listeners. But no, so I watched First Avenger and then watched Avengers, Winter Soldier. I skipped Age of Ultron because I've seen it very recently. Oh, I also watched Iron Man 3.
Okay.
And then watched Ant-Man. And so I wanted to kind of grab some movies that were kind of directly leading up into this one. But it was cool being able to see that progression. And actually, there were a lot of things tonight I was sitting there watching it that actually tonally played back to some of the themes in, especially like Winter Soldier, which was cool. So I'm glad I took the time to do that this week.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I liked it. My initial thought is that it's probably going to be my favorite Marvel movie.
Okay.
My top rankings slide around a little bit, but things like I definitely liked it more than Winter Soldier, which I really, really liked and has been a top Marvel movie. It was the top whenever it came out. Guardians stays up there in the number 1 or 2 spot. So I think this one will probably be number 1, if not number 2, depending on the day and what else I feel like watching. But
your current hormone level.
Yeah, depending on my mood, if I've had cake that day.
Oh, anyway. Okay, cool. Well, I also really liked it. I had the same thought. Like, while I was watching, I was like, this may end up taking the top spot for Marvel movies. There are, of course, I have some issues with it, but they're not huge. They're not like...
They're not giant man huge.
Oh, by the way, we didn't say, spoiler alert.
We're ruining the movie.
Yeah, this is Ruin a Movie. I can't assume you've ever seen any of our stuff or listened to any of our stuff before. In this, we will be spoiling things. So, as he just said, Giant Man, an alter ego of Ant-Man, makes an appearance in this. But yeah, no. So let's just get those quick things out of the way real quick before we kind of get into the things we want to do here. For me, the two big things were, I thought the comedy was on point in this. For the most part. The only thing was there was one point in the movie, and it was about the time when Paul Rudd's character came in, that I felt like they were maybe overdoing it a little bit. It was like scene, all of them comedic. Like, and I was laughing. I was enjoying them. They were funny, and I was just like, this is not a comedy, and that's not what I go to a Captain America movie for. Like, maybe Ant-Man, maybe Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm looking for the laughs. And I want comedic relief, but man, it seemed like it was a little bit overplayed at one point in the movie. And like I said, it was right about the time when I want to call him Hank Pym, but he's not Hank Pym.
Scott Lang.
There you go. Comes out of the van.
Yeah.
That was like right in the middle of it. So they might have done a little bit too much comedy for me. Then the other thing was the seat. Okay, go ahead.
I want to stop on that one.
Yeah.
And folks at home, listening, watching, whatever you're doing, I want you to pull out a calendar, a physical calendar. I want you to find today's date, which for us is May 5th,
yeah.
Cinco de Mayo, for a little while longer. Circle May 5th, because that's when this is going to happen. Chad and I are going to agree on something.
Yes. I was trying to get where you're going with that. I was like, is it because I found something too much comedy? That's not like me.
No. We are going to agree on something that we didn't like in a movie.
Okay.
Which is easy when we're seeing horse crap like Fantastic Four, which somehow always manages to come up. Skyfall, we didn't like a lot. No, not Skyfall. What was the last one?
I don't know.
What? Spectre. There are
007.
Yeah, 007. But yeah, you're right. This movie was not a comedy. In fact, it was probably one of, if not the most serious, or should have been the most serious out of all the Marvel movies. You have friends that are literally fighting and beating the crap out of one another and getting pretty brutal with one another.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to bring up Batman v Superman for just a second, and I don't want to really draw a lot of comparisons because tonally,
it's his Deadpool.
tonally, they are very, very different movies. But there were a couple of times where the brutality that was in Batman v Superman, I felt in this movie as well when they were fighting, which is a little surprising because of the way some of the Marvel movies have been. But where it got me is there's a couple of times where there's some serious things happening, and then they very quickly shift over into, even if it's not a big joke, still a little bit of a joke to lighten the mood. And I, for the record, I don't think they did anything in this movie as a response to any other movie that's out there. I'm not even going to say it.
You just said it.
Yeah, whatever. I think that, you know, they did what they wanted to do, and it was fine. Like I said, it's funny. I laughed too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that my only critique would have been be a little more aware of when the jokes are coming, and when you've got a serious moment happening, because I mean there are some deep moments in this, especially when talking about people's deaths and things like that. Then I would just be careful about where the jokes come after that. Let the moment lie for a little bit, ease into another scene, and then maybe have a joke happen, 30 seconds later instead of right after it.
Right. Yeah, and it's a pacing thing. It was just like rapid fire jokes at one point.
Yeah.
It just, once again, I get the need to bring some relief because it's some heavy stuff that they're talking about, but I think they overdid that.
It is a little bit of the Deadpool approach though, because Deadpool, the saturation and the density of the jokes is all over the place.
Right.
That if you have that many, even if only some of them land, then you still end up laughing for a good bit of the movie, or at least chuckling.
Right.
And I feel like that's
not what I go to this movie for.
Right, I know. But I wonder if that's what they thought, is like, we can put in more.
Yeah.
Because even if some of them don't feel right, most of them will, so it'll be okay.
I think it's almost a cumulative effect because of all the positive responses they've gotten from Ant-Man, from Guardians of the Galaxy, from all these other times they've done comedy in these movies. They've gotten such a great response. They're like, well, hey, let's throw more in there.
Yeah.
And so I just, whatever. So we've got that out of the way. The next thing for me was there were points, not every single moment that there was CG, but there were points where the CG was really bad. Like, there were times when it was Tony Stark talking, so it was Robert Downey Jr.'s head on the Iron Man body, and the compositing was horrible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it looked like a floating head kind of matched up to the CG body. I was like, oh my god! And then they would switch to a headshot where he's just wearing a suit.
Yeah.
And you can totally tell that no, this was actually shot with him with some sort of Iron Man suit on, and then it goes back out to a wide shot of him full body, and it's like, oh, so bad.
Yeah.
So, and Spider-Man's was so much CG and like very obvious CG. So those two were my like big problems with the movie was, and they're not that big because honestly, for the most part, it was like the plane fighting scene, the airport fighting scene. That's where it stuck out the most for that.
Yeah, I'll agree. The Spider-Man thing, and probably because I was most aware of him because it was a new character with a new costume, taking a look out for it, and that was one of our concerns from watching the trailer is the suit going to look very CG? And yes, it is noticeable. It does not look like a fabric suit, and I don't know how much CG they did with the other Spider-Man, but I think in both the Spider-Man trilogy
I believe it's pronounced Spider-Minces.
Spider-Minces, I'm sorry, thank you. But in the Spider-Man trilogy and Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, the suit, for the most part, still looked like it was a real suit because I believe he was probably wearing a real suit.
Right.
In this one, I don't know what the suit looked like when he was filming, if it was just a mocap suit or what, but there were definitely a lot of times where it looked CG.
Yeah.
So I hope they find ways to clean that up and make that a little bit better before Spider-Man Homecoming comes out next year. But yeah, I mean that's probably one of the only other complaints that I had was. And this will maybe tie into us talking about Spider-Man. We'll kind of keep going with that. But I was wondering if Spider-Man would feel like the added character in this. And actually, I feel like Hawkeye was the added character. He they even made a reference to him at one point and said, well, he's in retirement. And I think they could have left it at that and made him not show up at all. And nobody would have, he would not have been missed, let's be honest.
Right.
Which honestly.
Who would have gotten Scarlet Witch out of her timeout?
That's what I was going to say. The only reason I could see him being involved is because he obviously has this connection with Scarlet Witch from the battle in Age of Ultron to now, and they reference that, and that's good. That's the only pass they get, is that the fact that they did tie that in, but still just him showing up and not really giving a whole lot of explanation, and it was just very all of a sudden. Like, we knew he was going to be in the movie, obviously. But I feel like had you taken Hawkeye out of the movie, they could have found another plausible way to have her come out.
I mean, she could have still just, like,
Figured
found
it
out,
out.
and overpowered Vision and gotten out of there.
She already was not super on board with being kept at home anyway. So
sorry, I was gonna have another problem.
That's fine. But I feel like Hawkeye was the added character.
Right.
Like I said, they could have just not added him at all, and I don't think it would have taken away anything for the movie because I don't think he added anything to the movie.
No.
He has one brief line of dialogue with Black Widow, and that's it.
Right.
So
what do you like? Who won the Civil War? That's a question for you, and I just saw everything
light flash. Whatever.
That's my fault. I kicked the lights.
Ultimately, I think Team Iron Man won.
Okay.
So, huge spoilers. If you've been listening up to this point, stop now.
Hopefully, you've already seen the movie if you're watching this.
But when you get to the end of the movie, you have Falcon, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, all locked up in the raft. So, granted, Captain America does come and break them out, but now they are in hiding and technically still vigilantes and fugitives from the law, which is one thing they did not wrap up, which I thought they would in this movie. I thought by the end there would be some kind of a resolution.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it was a pretty big cliffhanger about what's going to happen next.
How is this all going to come out? And I wonder if that's I wonder if that's going to be in a big part of the Black Panther movie, because obviously they all end up in Wakanda.
Yep. Well, we know Cap is in Wakanda. They didn't show everyone else, so I wonder where everyone else is. But obviously, like, Hawkeye can't go home. He can't go back to his farmhouse. Although they could always be like, well, it's off the books and nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
But, where is...
Except for the people that do.
Because everybody's going to be looking for him. So, because of that, I felt like Team Iron Man won. And by Team Iron Man, I mean the government, because
the man,
the man trying to keep a man down. Technically, like, the law is still in place. The Sokovia Accords are still a thing. They didn't revoke anything. They didn't say, "Oh, we were wrong."
It's been revoked.
And so Team Cap are the ones that are in hiding. So because of those things, I would consider Team Iron Man as the quote unquote winner.
Yeah, oddly enough, I feel like wouldn't have even thought of this going in, because I was thinking, there's gonna be like a clear winner between the two, and I think from just the perspective of Team Iron Man and Team Cap'n, Team Iron Man, won.
Yeah.
But who really won was Baron Zemo.
Yeah,
because he got exactly what he wanted.
Yep.
He didn't care. He was going to kill himself.
Yeah,
he didn't care. I mean, sure, he got captured, but you know what happened? He destroyed the Avengers.
Yeah, which is exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah, so who won? That guy.
The bad guy.
The bad guy won this freaking movie.
Yeah. So
is that the first time? I think it's the first time we've really had a Marvel movie end with the bad guy won.
I think it's the first time a bad guy has won. Is it also the only time a Marvel bad guy is still alive at the end of the movie, with the exception of Loki? Loki's like the one bad guy they can't let go of. But Obadiah Stane in Iron Man 1 died. The guy from Iron Man 2...
With the whips?
With the whips.
Guy?
Yeah, Whiplash guy. He died.
Yeah. Captain America...
Red Skull.
Winter Soldier. The bad guy was an organization that's still around, and Crossbones survived. But
he's dead now.
That's true. He's way fucking
he's
dead.
Way dead. Him and apparently
Dude,
26 other people.
That was brutal, man.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, he's about to set off a bomb. What's gonna happen here? It's like implosion. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, the bad guy in Thor 2 dead. Ultron dead. There's
maybe.
Yeah, as far as we know. But yeah, as far as we know, all these other villains have been killed.
And Red Skull could also still pop up somewhere, because that's happened.
I had that thought whenever I was watching very closely when I was watching First Avenger, and really he just gets like you see him just kind of float away and get sucked up into space. Like, oh man, can I tell you what I would love to happen in Infinity War?
Yes.
Sorry, side note. I would love for Thanos to show up and be like, oh yeah, boom, here's all the bad guys you thought were dead.
Yeah. No, well, and I think... First time I watched it, I think, oh, he's dead. He's just been, obliterated into a singularity or something like that. But then now what it looks like is Rainbow Bridge.
Well,
He looks like he's been just teleported somewhere, and I'm like, I bet this is like what he like went to wherever Thanos is, and like has been like, oh, this is what's happening. He's like, going to be like a lackey of Thanos or something.
Well, and knowing what the Tesseract is, Tesseract is the space stone. So all it really does is teleport and open doorways to other places in space. So, they were using it to power all of their weapons in First Avenger, and that was one of the big things. Like, oh, we've got all these great weapons that's being powered by the Tesseract. What if, like, everyone that's ever been shot, because when they got shot, they just disappeared, are, like, floating around in space somewhere?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting to think. So, once again, though, the assumption is that he's dead. You're right. I mean, this maybe is a new leaf for them, kind of going towards not killing everybody.
Yeah. But yeah, so you're exactly right. Zemo was definitely the winner in this. He got exactly what he set out to do. I'm glad they left him alive because he's a fairly big Avengers villain, and I'm interested to see if they use him in the future, and if so, how do they do it? And does he ever end up wearing his purple suit that he wears in the comics?
Well, and he got put in, I'm guessing, the raft.
It didn't look like the raft.
Well, but he was in one of those special cages, which is where they had Winter Soldier, and he was clearly going to be on his way to the raft because that's where they send the super bad guys, right? So I don't know. That's just an assumption on my part.
Yeah.
But regardless, that's supposed to be the most secure place, and guess who just broke in there and broke people out? So it's possible that he could get broken out eventually.
Right.
No matter where he is.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Want to talk about Spider-Man?
Sure. Spider-Man.
So one of the questions we had going into it is, does Spider-Man feel like an addition to the movie?
So, I feel like I feel like they did a pretty good job incorporating him in.
Mm-hmm.
I did not feel like it was too tacked on. The interesting thing, while Tony Stark was talking with him and kind of like interviewing him almost, I felt like he was a little Captain America Jr. He was sounding exactly like the morals and the driving factors behind Steve Rogers. Did I just get that name right?
Yeah,
Steve
you
Rogers.
did. Good job.
Hey, I knew a name. But he sounded exactly like Steven Rogers as far as, like, oh, I just want to look out for the little guy, seeing something go wrong, and now that I have this power, seeing it go wrong, it's my fault if it goes wrong because I could have stopped it. Yeah. I was like, you're recruiting this guy to like be on your side, but he is Captain America,
which I think is probably intentional.
Oh, sure.
I think Tony appreciates what Steve brings to the team, and he's like, well, if I got to go fight Steve, I need another Steve. And so I think whenever he hears that, he's like, okay, maybe this could be, our new Steve. My new Steve. But yeah, I thought it made sense. They led up to it with Black Widow talking to Tony and basically saying, hey, we're going to need some more people for our team if we're going to go after Cap, because that's kind of when they decided to do that. It's like, hey, we're going to go bring in Captain America. We're going to go capture him, but we're going to need some help to do that because we know who all he's got on his side. And so Tony immediately goes to, hey, I can think of this kid that I've been keeping an eye on. He's been fighting crime in New York. Tony is, I don't know if he's based out of New York, but that's where Avengers Tower is. So I'm sure that they spend some time there. But him being able to say, okay, I've got this kid I can bring in.
Oh, we need more people. Let me go get a teenager.
Yeah.
Good, Tony.
Yeah. Especially when you were really upset earlier that a kid died. But
right.
Yeah.
But he does have a hot aunt, so,
That is true. He does have a hot aunt. Yeah, when they were like, Marissa Tomei's going to be Ant-Man, I was like, can I go over to Peter's house? But yeah, I mean, I thought they worked him in really well. I feel like this takes care of a lot of stuff that they're not going to have to do in Spider-Man Homecoming now. As far as like him getting a costume, we're not going to see him have to troubleshoot making spider webs and costumes and things like that.
Because
like
he's already done that.
Yeah, he's got it. In fact, he's got some upgraded tech. So I think we're at a really good place for him to go off and have his own movie now. And so it's great to go get a little bit more insight. I thought his performance was really good. I liked the quips. He was absolutely Spider-Man. Even at one point, I think it's like Bucky who's like, or I think it's Falcon who's like, normally we don't talk this much when we fight.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Which is such a...
You're under arrest.
One of the things Spider-Man's villains always give him shit about. It's like, why are you talking so much? And it's actually a strategy that he has to distract the bad guys. It's like, well, I'm going to talk you to death.
To death?
To death. Yeah,
He's a killer.
He kills everybody.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I thought his performance was great. I'm excited about him being Spider-Man, which I didn't know anything about him before, but I was very happy with his performance, and so I'm
Right.
interested as much as I was about Spider-Man. I didn't have any reservations really.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, once again, as long as they fix some of the stuff that with the CG on him as Spider-Man, I'm just a fan of them doing more practical effects and keeping the. I mean, it's hard to do with him though, because how do you really simulate some of the stuff that Spider-Man does?
Yeah.
It's just you have to get really good CG to make it seamlessly go between that and anything you do that is practical.
Right.
That is him in a suit. So, we'll see how they do in the movie, but it was fine. I was fine with his performance. I'm excited to see the Spider-Man movie when it comes out.
I also think they did a good job of introducing Black Panther. We know as much as we really need to know about him as a character to jump into a movie with him and it not be an origin story.
Yeah.
We know that the Black Panther name is passed down from warrior to warrior, which has been a thing for Black Panther. We know what his suit's made out of, vibranium. We know where he's based. So we know all this stuff about him, where now when he gets a movie, we can pretty much jump straight into him and some kind of conflict he's got going on.
Yeah.
We don't have to really tell a whole lot of backstory.
Yeah. No, I think they did a good job developing his character. I mean, I feel like they get a pass with Spider-Man because everybody already knows Spider-Man. Yep. So they didn't do a lot to develop his character. If he was a brand new thing and you'd never heard or seen him before, you'd probably be having some questions. Whereas Black Panther, most people probably do have some questions about who he is, and I feel like they did a good job developing who he is, giving him motivations, kind of giving him a reason why he does what he does, why he has this suit and all this other stuff.
Yep.
So I felt like that was handled well. Before we do run out of time here, I want to say, does this feel like a Captain America movie, or did this feel like a Avengers movie that focused on Captain America?
Yeah. So coming into it, I thought it's going to feel like an Avengers movie. It's going to feel like Avengers 2.5 or Avengers 3. But after seeing it, I feel like it's a Captain America movie, and I feel like everyone else played supporting roles to him. Even Iron Man. Worst case scenario, it's a Captain America / Iron Man movie. But I feel like the conflict and the story focus so much around Cap and his relationship with Bucky that it just carried over from what happened in Winter Soldier, that it was a Captain America movie, which I didn't think they'd be able to do, having all these characters in the movie, but I think they were successful, and so I would say yes.
Yeah. I don't know that I agree, which is fine. Good, we have something we don't agree about. Yeah.
I thought something wrong was happening.
And it might be a little bit of my bias going into it, getting in the way, and after some more viewings, maybe I'll feel a little different, but I feel like there was a lot of noise in this. Sure, I feel like the main star was Captain America. Like, he definitely got, it felt like at least, he got the most screen time, got the most story points, but there were still so many scenes and moments that were about the other people and about their interactions and their interplay and stuff like that. It feels like, it was a Avengers movie focused on Captain America. Which is fine. I mean, at this point with the universe the way it's built out, it's hard to say, oh, now Captain's going to go over here and do his own thing all by himself. Big, huge story against a big, huge hero. And those other guys are going to be like, well, fuck off, Captain America. We got our own shit going on. It's like, there's not world-ending stuff happening constantly. They can band together.
Yeah.
So I get why you can't just, it's hard to make just a Captain America movie by himself. But it's then also hard to say it's just Captain America movie, because it's got most of the Avengers in it. And so I don't know. I think they could have titled this Avengers Civil War, and I still would have bought it, and it still would have made total sense
and not change anything about the movie.
Really not have to change anything about the movie. So that's why I'm like, it could, if I could say just change the title and still have been totally fine with the movie, not feel like, oh man, why didn't they give Scarlet Witch more time on camera? It still would have, I feel like, been acceptable to have called it an Avengers movie. That's why it's hard to say, oh yeah, that's definitely a Captain America movie for me.
I think probably the best way that I can sum it up for is how it plays in my mind is that it almost feels like, I'll tell you, I was thinking about this in the car on the way over. I feel like this movie should have ended Phase 2, not begun Phase 3. Because everything coming out of this movie was wrapping up what's been going with Captain America up to this point, is fallout from Age of Ultron, which you absolutely cannot see this movie without seeing both Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
You can maybe skip a lot of other movies, but those two you have to see in order to understand what's going on and understand the importance of what's going on. But I feel like with it dealing with the fallout from that, especially since Ant-Man was kind of in the middle, in between of Age of Ultron and Civil War, Ant-Man doesn't feel like an ending to a phase for me. I feel like this could have ended a phase.
Yeah, no, I wonder after we see the rest of Phase 3. You know, like, I don't ever like the excuse of, it'll make sense when you see the other movies.
Yeah.
But I wonder if when we see the other movies, we'll say, oh, this isn't wrapping up Phase 2 as much as it's totally sparking off Phase 3. Because they left us with a lot of, like, loose ends. Like, what the fuck is going to happen in this universe now? Because the Avengers are in disarray, and who knows where everybody is,
right.
And who knows if Bruce knows what's going on, you know, with them. Who knows what the fallout's going to be when Thor comes back and says, what the fuck have you guys been doing here?
Oh, we were all friends.
Yeah, so, like, there's so much potential conflict and story to be told as a fallout from this. I get maybe it being a kickoff but at this point, you're right. At this point, it feels like, wow, they've tied up all these things. They've brought in all these elements from Phase 2. Why is this part of Phase 3?
Yeah. My prediction is, in talking about tie-ins of future movies and how this sets up Phase 3, I do feel like we probably won't really see a resolution to this until Infinity War, which actually I read this week, a rumor out there, or actually not a rumor, they are going to retitle those movies. It's not going to be called Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2.
Okay.
They're going to rename them. I don't know if they'll be called Infinity whatever, but they said they are not Part 1 and Part 2 movies. They are two separate movies that just tie in with one another. But anyways, but I feel like
whatever.
I feel like they're going to realize that Thanos is coming, something big is happening, and then they're just going to have to say, you know what, we've got to put everything aside. Maybe the government at that point is like, you know what, we need you guys. We have to have you.
We're totally screwed. Come back.
We're out. Please come help us. Because between now and then, we have Doctor Strange come out, which probably won't tie in really to much of any of this, which I'm very surprised they didn't do anything to set up Doctor Strange. I figured at least a post-credits thing would set it up, but post-credits sets up Black Panther, which doesn't happen for a while, and Spider-Man, which does happen next year. So we have Doctor Strange next, then we have Guardians, then Spider-Man, then Thor, and I believe that after Thor is Infinity War. Could be wrong, but I know that that's for next year, and I think that's how it goes after that. I'm not sure. But, yes, like I said, I think this will set up Infinity War really well, whatever they end up calling it. And I think we'll probably just see a little bit of a disarray, and maybe some of these new heroes come in and they help kind of patch things back together.
Are they billing Infinity War as Avengers
Yes.
Infinity Wars? So those are going to be in Avengers movies.
They are Avengers movies.
Okay.
Yeah. So technically they are Avengers 3 and 4, if you want to look at it that way.
Okay.
So, but they're going to be, interconnected. I'm assuming the first one will be a cliffhanger, but
this was a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, this was. But like Infinity War Part 1 happens, and then I think there are like two movies. I think Black Panther and Captain Marvel happen in between Part 1 and Part 2. So I always thought that was interesting with, how does that happen if you're in the middle of a story and then you're trying to tell something else? But so knowing that it's going to be two separate movies and a little more segregated makes a little bit more sense. But
yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, if the things from Infinity War are what I'm expecting them to be going on, how do you take a break in the middle of that and have any kind of impactful story when you know all this other crazy crap's going on? Yeah, I mean, even if they're not calling them Part 1 and Part 2, if they're all about Infinity Wars and the Thanos collecting the Infinity Stones, making that shit going on is pretty major, especially if if it's galactically aware of, everybody's aware of it going on. I don't know. Yeah. It'll be interesting. So far, Marvel has done such a great job with all this stuff. I have faith in them.
Yep, they haven't screwed up yet.
Yeah, so...
Crap, I was going to say something. I forgot what it was. Oh, Doctor Strange. Leading up to this movie, there was some viral promotional material. One of the things they were doing was taking this fake news station like WHIH or something,
Mm-hmm.
and the girl who's the host is Christine Everhart, who is the reporter from Vanity Fair that Tony Stark sleeps with in the first Iron Man, and shows up in Iron Man 2. And so there's these interviews and talking about Sokovia and things like that.
Yeah, I think I saw one of those.
Yeah, I think I sent one to you. Well, the interesting thing is, like, there's a ticker down at the bottom that has, like, different bits of news and things like that scrolling across. And in the very last one they released, in the ticker, they mentioned Stephen Strange.
Huh. Was it a car wreck?
No, it was like Dr. Stephen Strange comes up with some new kind of surgery to save lives or something like that. So that tells me that that's an answer to our question of when does Dr. Strange take place. If he's still a surgeon, it's, he doesn't become Dr. Strange before this happened, so that means it's probably going to happen afterwards. I'm curious to see how that ties in.
Potentially simultaneous to this movie.
Right.
Yeah. So, cool. Well, I'm excited for all of it.
Yep. I'm gonna say one thing, and this is gonna be very, for you people that care, for at least one of our listeners, will be very controversial. But I was thinking about this on the way over here. So, like I said, I think this is probably one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
And when you compare this to Batman v Superman, this is a better movie. I'm going to get to the controversial part. So this is a better movie. There are less issues with this movie than Batman v Superman, which I really, really liked. However, for some reason, and I can't figure out why, maybe you can help me out, and I probably know what you're going to say. For some reason, I enjoyed Batman v Superman more than this movie.
Sure.
Even though I found more flaws with that one. And if I had to, now that I've seen both, if I had to pick, like, you could only watch one of these two movies for the rest of your life, you can't watch the other one, I would have to pick Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
And I think it's because Batman v Superman, whether you liked it or not, was something new and different. We don't have anything else like that out there. Whereas this is a given formula that works. There's no problems with it, but it's still more of groups of superheroes, which it sucks that, like, I feel like I'm starting to get numb to it a little bit, because when the Avengers happen, it's like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is unique. This is special. Now It's not so special anymore. And I feel like I hold them to such a high standard. So, but that's, like I said, I was thinking about the way where it's like, it is a better movie, but I enjoyed Batman v Superman just a little bit more.
Sure. I think you a little bit hit it on the head, just from what I know of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, one, you're a bigger DC fan than you are Marvel.
That is true.
And you subscribe to every Batman comic out there, like,
and Superman
and Superman comic. Yeah. So, you're a bigger fan of that world and of those characters, which is fine.
Yeah.
So, and you had not ever gotten to see Batman and Superman on screen together before.
Right.
And, every time you see it, you leave a little in your pants.
I think a little.
Yeah. So I think, okay, maybe more like Silicon Valley amounts. If you haven't seen
the horse show
Silicon Valley from this week, holy smokes. No. So I think that's what it is you're just a bigger fan of that universe and stuff like that. And so getting to see these iconic characters up on screen, You're biased. And that's fine. I'm biased about plenty of things, so I think it's good that you can recognize, maybe this is a better movie. I enjoyed this more. That's the difference between, like, although better movie is a little bit of an opinion based thing, but there are some technical things you can point to that, aren't really arguable. It's like, this technical aspect of this movie might be better than this technical aspect, whether you liked it better or not. So that's a difference between, objective and subjective kind of opinions about things.
Yeah.
So I think that's all that you're seeing there. You know, I liked Batman v Superman. I know I tore it apart and I had maybe more issues with it than you did.
Yeah.
But I still really liked it, and we'll own it, and we'll watch it again, and liked the movie plenty. I did like this more.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the movie was better.
Yeah.
So I'm both sides on over here.
Yeah.
But then again, I do tend to like Marvel stuff better.
Right.
And I know that that's part of my bias.
Yeah.
And I like these characters more than most of the DC characters.
Yeah.
So I think that's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. Everybody love everybody, as you like to say.
Everybody love everybody. That's right.
Oh, I hate it.
So keep that in mind, folks, because what I'd like to do now is encourage you to take to the comments. Viewer, listener, whatever you're doing, maybe both, whatever. Post a comment. What did you think of the movie? What do you think of our analysis? Did you have more problems with it? Did you not see these problems? Where does it rank in your movies? Leave something in the comments and start a dialogue. You can go to the Facebook page and post it there if you'd like, or post it down in the comments.
We will have all those links provided somewhere in a direction.
In that area.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I think that wraps it up for us.
We are wrapped up.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This has been Chad and Wes Ruin a Movie. Don't forget you can email us at chadandwes@gmail.com or visit our website at chadandwes.com. Follow us on SoundCloud and subscribe on iTunes if you like. You can also leave us a review. See you next time.